today we've got the awesome Mr. Dougie Todd on the call. Dougie is kind of taking 20, 30 minutes out of his day to talk to you about his experience working with me in 1%. By my account, he's absolutely smashed it, but I need to hear from the horse's mouth and let him do the talking. So before we kick off, Dougie, do you want to introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do?
Yeah, hi Luke. I'm Dougie Todd. I am a partner in the tax team at a London-based professional services firm. Live in Hertfordshire, married with an almost 9-year-old daughter.
Awesome. So let's rewind a couple of months into the past. I think you'd seen a bit of my stuff on LinkedIn, possibly seen maybe a colleague or someone you know has posted about the experience, decided to reach out for a chat. What was going on with you back then that sort of made you think, you know what, I want to have a chat with someone like me?
So there's been a lot. I mean, I could go on that question for hours, I think. But I turned 50 this year in the summer. And if I'm honest, most of my 40s, I hadn't really been particularly happy with my kind of levels of fitness. You know, I'd always been quite sporty, quite fit. And then in my 40s, that kind of just fell away largely. And then as a result of that, you know, put on a bit of weight, just felt sluggish for most of my 40s, if I'm honest. And I always kind of thought there would be some trigger that would eventually kick in and I would suddenly transform myself. And then I kind of thought that might be turning 50 and that didn't work. I thought I had a bit of a health scare, actually. That's a bit strong, but I had some issues with my GP after turning 50. And I thought, well, maybe that would be the wake-up call. And again, that didn't really seem to work either. And I just got to a point where I'd lost all enthusiasm for everything. You know, as I said, I'm a partner in a firm. You know, I enjoyed my work, but after finishing work, you know, family, my own sort of personal sports interests had kind of fallen by the wayside, and I just felt really flat. And then one day I just thought, you know what, if I don't change myself, nothing's going to change. There isn't going to be one big event that triggers me to suddenly do something. You know, for want of a better phrase, I have to be the change, I guess. And as you say, I've been following you for a while. I've been doing various kind of extreme things. You know, I would do an extreme diet. So I would do fasts for 72 hours and I would do kind of extreme training programs for a couple of weeks. And, you know, they're not sustainable. I kind of persuaded myself that I didn't have any resilience because I was doing things that weren't sustainable.
Yeah.
Almost setting myself up to fail before I'd even started. And as I said, I've been following you for a while. You know, what you were saying seemed quite simple. And I thought I need to get on board a process that is consistent and that I can trust and that essentially just someone to tell me what to do, because I'd lost all focus of what good looked like.
Yeah.
Good was increasingly becoming these extreme diets and training programs. And I think I just thought I need to just make a change. So it was literally just, I think on a Tuesday morning, I just messaged you and said, can we chat?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you're saying there, Dougie, like not in your situation, but from the gents I work with, it's a very common narrative, right? And it's this kind of, like sometimes sacrificing your own physical and mental well-being at the altar of work and success, and that's going pretty well, but then not being able to really take care of yourself, and that not like some extreme issue, but almost like a slow, steady, just drip, drip, drip decline, and then feeling a bit like, what's it all about? I'm not as happy as I want to be, as content. I can't get the traction or consistency over my own self-care, and then as a result of that, don't show up and feel and look as you would want. But it's that trying to apply something that may have worked 20 years ago, like more hardcore extreme, but it's not fit for purpose now. And so, like you said, it's like trying to ram a square peg into a round hole with those sort of things. And so you're left feeling like, well, maybe I can't do it and it's impossible and I ain't got any consistency. And it's like, no, it's just what you're doing isn't fit for purpose anymore, right? And so you get to a point where it's like, well, time out. I need to look at things differently, right?
Yeah, and there was a moment of kind of self-realization at some point just before I spoke to you where you know, as I said, I've got a 9-year-old daughter. You know, if she came to me and said, oh, I tried something for a day and it didn't work, so I'm going to try something else, you would look at her as if to say, what are you talking about? You know, that's not what life is. You need to keep at things. But I'd lost all sense of that because I tried so many things that, as you said, weren't fit for purpose. And you kind of need to stand outside yourself or have someone outside kind of showing you that. I think particularly where I got to with my mindset was quite low and kind of self-defeating and having, and we'll talk about it, I guess, later on, having not just you, but the community as well, just kind of saying this stuff to you, has been really, really powerful. And yeah, so now it's been good.
Okay, well, that's a nice segue to talk about where we are today, right? So that's where you were. Probably feeling pretty disempowered with where you're at and what you could do, but really, actually, I want to make a change here. So let's fast forward to today, where we sit right now. 10 weeks of work been done. What, I guess, have been your key sort of successes and achievements having come through the process so far? And for transparency, we still continue to work together, right? So we're still on the journey, which is great, but we've had some great achievements. So yeah, why don't you go through a few of those key points for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you'd asked me that at any point or any different point in the initial 8-week program, I probably would have given you a different answer, because the way that the program works, you're working on consistent nutrition, exercise, mindset, but some weeks, some of those tasks are easier than others. So, there might have been some weeks where I would have said, well, actually, you know what, my significant achievement is, for example, week 2, quite early in the process, you have a conversation about drinking alcohol. And you think, wow, to get to the end of week 2 and to have cut down on my drinking to the level that I had was something that I would never have thought possible in such a short space of time. So I would have said, well, just cutting down on drinking to a point where it's reasonable and sensible, that's a huge achievement. But then by the time you get to week 8, that's kind of dialed in. That's become the new habit. So by the end of week 8, it might be exercise. So it's really difficult to say one thing, because it changes through the life of the program. But I think if you go back to what I wanted to achieve, I think my key achievement and success is kind of developing that resilience and consistency. It's interesting, within the project, or within the program, sorry, you can kind of, I've discovered at least, you can play about with it a little bit. I think you used the phrase daily.
Yeah.
And some guys in the community, they really beat themselves up when they miss a day doing some training. And I've never been like that. I've always been quite comfortable that I can kind of play about with it a little bit. But what I've developed, and this is really key for me, is there's probably 4 or 5 things that I've kind of described as my standards. So, if I'm out with my mates at a weekend, I will still have a cold shower in the morning. I will still do some form of training. I will still fast for 16 hours a day. So when I fall off the wagon, I've got something to go back to. And that's something that I've lost over the last sort of 10, 15 years, where you try one thing, it doesn't work. And then you have 2 months in this kind of self-defeating spiral of misery and just feeling bad about yourself before you then say, well, what else can I do now? Having those foundations to go back to just feels really powerful.
I think that's the resilience piece, right? And for me, that's probably the most powerful part of any kind of change, because there's the habits and the stuff that we need to build out. And yes, of course, they're really important, right? That to say otherwise isn't true. But what's equally as important is your ability to be consistent and continue to move and do it, and not just say, oh, fuck it, and jack it all in. And like, you're at a point in the program, well, there's having a point in the program where it feels like, oh, it's gone wrong and I've done it. And I always say, the obstacle is the way, you learn through that. And it's kind of easy to say that at the start of a process when you're about to invest. Yeah, okay, I get that. Then when it happens and you feel like you messed up, a lot of my job as a coach is about telling, metaphorically taking someone to step back from the edge of the cliff and going, it's not as bad as you think. We can keep going. Look at what you've actually done well. And it's not about fake compassion. It's the reality most of the time. And say, well, actually, it isn't as bad as you think. And you can continue and actually look at what you have done. And there we go. And not allowing that to happen. And that then builds momentum and I think gives you that resilience, right? Does that?
Yeah. We had a specific example. I think it was week 4 or 5, where something kind of just blindsided me, coming out of nowhere. And I had a couple of days where, well, actually after a couple of days, I got to the point of messaging you to say, listen, I just don't have the energy to focus on this just now. I need to step back. Nothing to do with the program. I just need to kind of put my energy somewhere else. And I actually sent you the message at, say, 10 o'clock at night, and I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, actually, I don't want that to define what I do with myself and how I see myself. So I deleted the message, but you'd obviously still seen the deletion. And you just reached out and said, listen, this is it's easy when it's going well. This is the resilience that you need to develop. And what was really helpful was you said, listen, put that on the group chat. Let the other guys that you're going through this with know what's going on. And it was that piece that I mentioned earlier, the other guys just A, being supportive, B, obviously taking the piss a little bit, but C, pointing out what I'd already achieved, and it was silly just to give it up. And that was really eye-opening. And last week, for various other reasons, life happens, right? It's not always smooth sailing. I had a really bad week last week, but it was interesting. Not once did I think, oh, I need to reach for the crisps and the chocolate. I need to go and get a bottle of wine. Never once did I think, I'm not going to train today. So even after 10 weeks, having those contrasting experiences was really interesting.
And I think that's a really important one, because part of how I talk my marketing is like, guys, not in a great spot like you discussed, and do it. And it's like, what you want to do is paint a picture of most of the time you're going to be feeling good, happy, and content. That's not going to be 24/7, because that's not how life works. And for me to say that, it's not true. But I think, so then when you're presented with a difficult situation, it doesn't stop it feeling difficult or being shit. But if you're able to then split test that with, okay, me on top of my habits, not saying fuck it, doing the things that I normally do and taking care of myself, the situation is still hard, but I'm in a much better place dealing with that hard situation. If we then took that, put you having not done any of this work on yourself in that same situation, it would be markedly different. It's that thing of it doesn't stop it being hard, but you're much better able to deal with it and then come out of it in a better place, right? Does that make sense? I think that's...
Yeah, no, definitely.
And it's more autonomous, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I was thinking this morning before we spoke, the last couple of weeks, I've started catching myself. I use the phrase self-reflection all the time now, because, again, it's important to stress that what we do with you isn't just nutrition and exercise. There's that element, but there's a real piece about actually looking at yourself. Where are you? Who are you? Where do you want to be in 10 years? What do you want your values to be? And once you start getting into that kind of mindset, you do reflect a lot. You take those quiet moments in the day and you just say, well, actually, what did I do today? What could I have done better? What will I try and do better tomorrow? And actually, for all sorts of reasons, that's the more important piece, is that not just letting life happen to you, but accepting it will be difficult sometimes, but still feeling like you've got some control over it.
It's being more intentional and a bit more conscious about what we do. And I think when we're more intentional and conscious, I think the lack of that can often end up making you feel a bit victim-y. It's like, oh, life's just happening to me, and what can I do? And, oh, that's happened. Now, this isn't to say we don't have hard, challenging, difficult things happen to us, and most of those aren't necessarily your fault. You're not responsible for those. But what I believe our job is, it's our job to be able to deal with that in the best way we can, and that's the bit that you are responsible for. So no matter what happens, how are you going to deal with it? But to be in that headspace, A, there's foundational stuff that wants to make you feel better about yourself, but B, you need to be more conscious and aware of what you're doing, because then it means it's, oh, okay, well, this has happened. How did I show up? What did I do? And it's not about some constant neurotic challenging yourself, because that doesn't work either. But having a bit of, I guess, equanimity to then take a step back and look at yourself objectively and go, well, did I do that well? Or that situation, did I shower myself in glory there? Not really. Yeah. Well, then not just stop and go, I'm a piece of shit. Go, oh, okay, well, what can I do differently next time? What was really going on? And then you're always working, and that's where the resilience comes. Life isn't straightforward, but I think if we're better able to look at ourselves with an objective lens and then make the right decisions off the back of that, that's it. And that's that whole mindset piece. And it's like, well, what's that got to do with habits and behaviors, that are more, I guess, superficial? Well, those habits and behaviors enable you to feel and show up in the right way, so you can be more intentional and make those right decisions, right? So it's all a bit 360.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting. I've always been a little bit wary of kind of motivational phrases. I've always kind of stayed away from them. But I think I posted in my post last week that one of the things that I've really kind of tried to develop is how you do anything is how you do everything. Yeah. So even in the couple of difficult weeks that I had with work, with family, with whatever it was, just getting up and having a shower at 6 o'clock in the morning, a cold shower.
Yeah.
You think, right, I've done that. How much worse is the day going to be? And that's been really helpful.
What would you say then, Dougie, is, I guess, and we kind of touched on some of this already, but I guess any key takeaways from the process, key learnings so far?
I mean, the one thing that's been eye-opening, and you've said this to me before, that a lot of guys say this, but I was very dubious about the kind of community aspect of it. When I've done my sort of the diets or the training programs, I think a lot of guys, you just want to be in your own headspace. You just want to focus on it and just get it done. So the idea of kind of being in a community and having calls and having a chat group felt a little bit kind of woo-woo. But actually, that's been, I would say, the best part of it. So you have a call on a Tuesday, either an afternoon or an evening. In the first couple of weeks, when I was on the calls, I thought, this is interesting. Guys are chatting, and you realise that everyone's got their own thing. There were some guys on it who are running marathons, and you kind of think, why are you on a coaching program? You're clearly fit, but then everyone just comes at things with different angles and their own problems, and even that was just a bit of an eye opener. But so after the first couple of weeks, I thought, I'm quite enjoying this. And then by the third week, you send out the recordings of the calls. By the third week, I started listening to the recordings of the call that I wasn't even on, just because you get so much out of what other people are going through and their observations and thoughts. And one of the guys who joined after me, I listened to him speaking, and he was just saying exactly what I was thinking coming into it, and he sounded a bit, well, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. This is going to be, I'm signed up to it, but it's too hard.
Yeah.
I reached out to him outside the chat and just said, listen, just trust the process. It does work. I'm kind of 2 or 3 weeks ahead of you. If you want to have a chat, then just message me. And this makes me sound really bad, but I'm not sure I would ever have done that before. I'm not someone that reaches out in that way.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's interesting. That even after 2 or 3 weeks, I've kind of recognized the value of having people that don't know you that you can speak to and provide some support. So I think even in the 10 weeks that we've been working together, I think I've become more, the key learning is, speaking to people, and other people are going through all their own shit. And a lot of people want to speak, and speaking to them can help you as well.
Yeah. I think that what you said there, I mean, I'm biased. It's my program and it's a group program, right? Of course. So I'm not going to say it's bad, but I think a lot of guys initially, not all, because some are up for it, but a lot of them, when I say it's a group thing, or they haven't maybe noticed it, and they're like, and it's like, well, what am I going to get out of someone else? That's just about me. I need to sort me out, and I'm unique, and my problems are all special to me, and that's it. But then actually, you get dumped into a process with everyone's pretty successful in a good spot, but people from different places, different situations. You go, it's not just me here. Oh, bloody hell. And there's so much power in that, but you have to actually experience it really to get that, And I think because what you all see, what we all see is everyone's outside, rational, we're all great, it's all fine, and that's what everyone presents. You don't see what's going off in here. And so you make an assumption that you're the crazy one and everyone else is rational and sorted. And you're going to process where you see some of that. You go, oh, thank God for that. And not in a, haha, they're struggling and I am too. It's just a great leveler. But then there's also then power in hearing someone else and what they're dealing with. It helps you go, hold up a second, he's doing that. Maybe I should look at myself like that. And it gives you a coaching process, but with others as well. So it kind of, for me, it powers up a coaching process, So
yeah, it definitely does. And I think the other thing, maybe just a bit more kind of focused on my own experience, is the self accountability. That's been that's definitely the key takeaway. Is it's interesting. I've been through personal training programs before with guys. One of whom is now quite a good mate, actually. And you always feel accountable to them. So maybe if you wake up feeling like crap one morning and you don't go to the PT session, you think, well, I'm not cheating myself. I'm just cheating the PT. Whereas doing it remotely, in the nicest possible way, not that you don't care, but you don't care whether I train today or not. I can turn up on that Tuesday call and tell you that I've done my 7 days.
Yeah.
But what's the point of that? And that kind of self-accountability, the amount of times in the morning that I've went into my garage, which is where I've got my sort of training equipment, and it's freezing cold, and you think, oh, sorry, I could just go back to bed. And then you just think, well, what's the point? What's the point of that? What am I doing by achieving that? So that kind of self-accountability thing has been a kind of key takeaway for me. And no one else is going to do it for you. You just got to do it.
No one's coming to save you, right? It's another pithy go, but it's true. But I think that's true, and the whole point of a process like this is helping empower you so that you can then become accountable to yourself. Because ultimately, I think any coaching process should empower an individual so they are accountable to themselves. Yes, initially having some external accountability can help, but long term, you need to be accountable to yourself, but also you need to know what you need to do in your life in order to be accountable as well. And that's where often people get stuck.
Yeah, I mean, going right back to what I said at the start, I couldn't have done that 10 weeks ago because I genuinely didn't know what to do or where to start.
Yeah. And it's that weird dichotomy. I hear guys say all the time, like, I kind of know what I need to do, but I'm not doing it. And why am I not doing it? And then, because I think the reality is you don't really know exactly what you need to do. You've got an idea of it, but the I guess the practical application, I think most guys, you set the bar too high as well for whatever it is. Yeah. So then you just constantly trip up. Whereas actually, if we lower the bar and just start small and steady, then,
no, it's interesting. I think the first couple of weeks I was working with you, I probably said quite a lot that nothing that you're telling us is new. Nothing that you're telling us is stuff that we probably haven't all done in various different ways. And you always kind of had a little smirk on your face, like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. But I stopped saying that after a couple of weeks because what is different is it's not the individual tasks, it's the cumulative effect of doing them all together. And then by the time you get to week 4 or 5, you do start doing some different stuff. So, I think maybe it's answering what would I recommend to anyone, but your approach of pulling everything together between nutrition, mindset, exercise, and then the working within the community, that's what gives you the power and the empowerment to be accountable to yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's been great chatting, Dougie. I know you're really busy. I know it's what you're saying. It's like your last day before work, or you just stopped, so I don't want to cannibalize too much.
I'm finishing at 5:30 this afternoon.
Nice. Well, yeah, I don't want to cannibalize too much of your time. So, before we get off, let's say someone's watching this. They've maybe seen some of my stuff. They're maybe in a situation like you were, back when we first spoke, and they're maybe on the fence, even not like talking to someone like me, but just generally about gauging the process, but kind of know that something's not right. What would you say to someone in that position?
There's a long answer to this. Well, not that. But I just want to say, I think I'd seen an advert of yours about 2 months before I phoned you, and it was, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a Friday night, and I think you were on a train with your wife and family. And your message essentially was you were going off to do something as a family, and you were really looking forward to it, and you had a whole weekend planned, and it was going to be amazing. And we were all looking forward to getting home, opening a bottle of red wine, waiting for our kids to go to bed so that we could forget the week that had just passed. Mm-hmm. And then I think your final comment was something like, and that's your fault. And I remember thinking, what? Screw you, you don't know me. And I couldn't get that advert in my head. And when I spoke to you, it was that advert that triggered me to do it. So yeah, I think a lot of your posts are kind of funny, but the fundamental message is you're the person that makes the change. You change yourself. And we had a couple of phone calls before you ever commit to anything. And you can tell very quickly that you've done this a lot, and it clearly works from all the posts and the support you get on LinkedIn. So I don't see why you wouldn't just have a call. If you're struggling with any aspect of your physical fitness, mental well-being, whatever it may be, you're not salesy. You don't force anyone into the agreement. Just give you a call, I think.
Thank you. Well, it's a pretty good endorsement, Dougie, so thank you for that. On that note, I had a great chat. Really enjoyed this. I think anyone watching got a lot out of that, Dougie, so I really appreciate you taking the time, so thank you very much. Mm-hmm. If anyone is watching this, they're interested in having a chat, anything that Dougie, me chatting about today resonates, drop me a note in the comments or drop me a DM and we can arrange a call. So thank you. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.